Hello. We are back to actually the panel discussions. We are back to talking only on stage and not in the audience. It's my favorite time. It's the time for a fireside chat without a fire. So I will be speaking with some of the key MEPs driving the negotiations on the AI Act in Parliament. Of course, please, come over. Dragos Tudorake, one of the co-rapporteurs from the new Act. Please, all you welcome. Come to Sparenta from the Greens.
Shall I go there?
Please, whatever you want. And Axel Voss, who's also a shadow and opinion rapporteur. How are you doing?
So far, okay.
Okay.
Yes, it's,
We have another negotiation this afternoon.
Yeah,
so ask
12.
us after.
big day today.
So is it a big day today in terms of negotiations? What are you going to debate? I saw a bit of agenda. I know that there's going to be something about general purpose AI, open source, sustainability, and definition of significant risk. So,
That one is fun.
I don't know where to start, but maybe let's start with Dragos, because of course you wrote the agenda. One thing, just housekeeping. Also, the other co-rapporteur, Brando Benifei, will join us, but he's slightly late. He'll join us remotely again. But yeah, it's going to be here too. Dragos, tell us a bit about what today's meeting is about and what you are looking forward to.
Well, I'm hoping somehow that today could be the last day. We also have tomorrow, let's say, space for a final meeting, but the meaning of the meeting today is to close the very important discussion on general purpose AI. Mm-hmm. So let's hope, which was quite of a late addition in terms of putting the text in front of the shadow rapporteurs, and I want to thank them for their flexibility and understanding for that. But
what happened with the original deadline?
Well, you know,
it was supposed to be approved today.
I've always said
in committees
it's
phase.
true, but I've always said that quality is more important than speed and quantity.
Right.
And I think we
Tell us
all
more.
agree that this is a very, very complex text, and we also have a responsibility to get this right. So if we were to choose between doing it properly and having discussions and understanding both at technical level but also at political level what it is that we're doing, as co-rapporteurs, Brando and myself, we thought that it's more important that we give that time to actually properly debate,
Right.
and that's what we did. That's why we
But
gave up
what
on
were the main points of debate during the negotiations that led
Well,
to
I think
this
from the very
prolongment?
beginning we knew that there will be not an easy exercise on Article 5 and 6, which is probably the most important part of the text because
Right.
it deals with those type of
Prohibited.
applications that would have a prohibited or high risk. And indeed, I think we've spent quite a number of hours, quite an important number of hours, again, at technical and a political level, debating that. And I think today we can actually draw a line under Article 5 and 6, which is important.
Good.
Same thing for general purpose. We knew it's not going to be an easy discussion. We know what the council did. So we said we are going to take our responsibility and have a text on general purpose, which is what we're doing. And again, today, I'm hoping, if not today, certainly tomorrow, we'll also close there. The rest of the discussions, although not easy, I think by now they are pretty much settled. So I'm confident that today or tomorrow we will close so that we can vote on the 11th of May.
Right. I'll come back to general purpose AI, so put a pin in it. But I want first of all to ask him, it's close, and then to Axel, but let's have him. What do you expect? What's your main objective in today's negotiations? What do you hope to get clinched?
Well, I hope that that a lot of the agreements that have been made in the past months will now just be finalized, no backtracking anymore, because it's always when something new is added, then things open up again. So I really hope that that's not going to be the case. And yeah, as Greens for us, sustainability.
I saw the sustainability word there.
Is really important.
So is it about carbon footprint of data centers essentially?
Well, it's basically we want we have a very big new system coming up, these AI systems. We know they use a lot of energy, so let's be mindful about it. But on the other hand, also make sure that we take into consideration the harm it can cause. We want AI as Greens that helps and that can really actively help combating climate change, and it shouldn't add too much. And I think also for the trustworthiness of a system, if you don't know when you're a small startup, you think, oh, this AI system sounds great, but you realize as soon as you start using, you cannot pay your energy bills anymore. That's a bit of a conundrum.
So what kind of rules would you what kind of new rules would you like to embed in the article to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, we would like to see some environmental standards and at least some transparency on how much energy something a system should be using, so that we just know. And in general, I think that is something that's very much missing in the tech sector overall. We have no idea how much everything is used. We call it a cloud, but in the end, it's all these dirty data centers that are just emitting a lot. So
meta cloud.
yeah, exactly.
It's a poetic image.
Yes.
Right. Are you confident on getting behind Article 5 and 6 today? Do you like it all?
I definitely don't like it all, but I don't think there's anyone who likes everything that's in this
Right.
text.
What do you dislike in those two articles specifically?
Well, I think there's been a lot of discussion on both, and I think we wanted more in Article 5. That was quite a strong position from the Greens to categorize a few more things as absolutely too risky to be put on the market. But I think we found a very good balance between the different groups. So.
Which battles did you win in the Article 5 so far? Like, which ones did you manage to get
Well, as we all know, it's not. We have not won one yet. So don't dare to go too far now, because what if I lose this afternoon? It would be such a drama for me. It would look very bad. So I'm not gonna.
In Italy, we say don't sell the pelt of the bear before you killed it.
Exactly.
But we don't kill bears in general.
No, but we say that in the Netherlands as well. And we don't even have bears.
So we both come from countries that used to kill a lot of bears. Clearly. Axel, are you happy about this sustainability stuff going on?
So there are some points I wouldn't do it myself in a way of compromise. I'm not sure even if we are there already because we are referring quite often to sustainability and so on. But in Article 5, I do not see that we have to do this here once again. But this will be the discussion of this afternoon. And of course, personally, I would be more radical in this whole approach because from my point of view, we are focusing too much on risks everywhere, and every little risk might be covered in a way. And I would be more open, especially if we are coming to this banning situation, to differentiate more in so you have always the situation in digital issues. So you can use it for the good and you can use it for the bad. And here this ban of everything if we're coming to facial recognition and the emotional detection and so on, I would prefer more to differentiate. So, but this would mean probably another round of negotiation.
To differentiate?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Are you optimistic about getting there by May the 11th? As the new date, I think, is circulated is May the 11th, right? I read Axel's assistant's tweet well.
So I'm optimistic that we are reaching this point. Personally, I would not like to vote on the 11th, but this is a very personal...
Why? What do you have?
So I won't be in the parliament on the 11th.
Okay,
and
so your birthday.
And I can't change it. No, it's not a birthday. It's a kind of getting an award for the copyright 4 years ago. So that's why we planned this for 1 year, and all of a sudden Dragos is coming and saying, oh no, on the 11th we have to do this. So that's why I'm not happy about the date.
We can have it all.
Yeah, so it might happen that I won't be there, but we will see.
What about Article 5 and 6?
Therefore, I have
do you like Article 6?
I have to do more complicated things today that we have to postpone everything.
Do you like Article 6, Axel, as it is? You should, right?
Yes. So it's always, from my personal view, we could have been more stricter, and stricter in a way in the sense of competition issues.
Because essentially, from what I understood, Article 6 is a kind of further layer of it's a kind of clearinghouse to make sense whether you fall under Annex 3, right?
Yes.
So if you don't pose significant harm,
Yes. So it's about
significant
the
risk, sorry,
Yeah,
you are not possibly going to be within the scope of Annex 3, which is the list of high-risk AI applications. So it's kind of a nice deal for high-risk AI companies, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, for kind of a compromise, it might be okay somehow. If I would have done this by my own, then it would have been different.
There will be a different form of government.
Yes.
There's a lot going on here.
yes, I know.
Well, Dragos, what do you make of... What,
Yeah, imagine Dragos is in between this.
yeah, of course. No, but yeah, Article 6, so in a way, is it the equivalent of what Council did with the non-purely accessory AI definition?
In a way.
How would you describe it?
Really.
Describe it better, because I'm very bad at describing legal stuff, as you can tell.
Well, I think you use the word clearinghouse, which is not a bad word.
Okay,
we, amongst ourselves, in our jargon between shadows and rapporteurs, we use the word filter or threshold. And the idea was, and again, you have just seen a bit of a glimpse of how the negotiations and how complex and difficult the negotiations have been for the last year, because we do have different ideologies. We do look at this from different perspectives, and harmonizing that and finding that compromise. And I've always told colleagues, we will have to leave this room equally happy and equally unhappy. We can't all be happy with, with the final product. There's a balance of what we get and the concessions that we have to make in order to get to that compromise.
But specifically
So
Article 6.
On Article 6, what we have is, again, a filter or a clearinghouse that says you might find yourself in the domains listed in Annex 3, but if you do not pose a significant harm, it doesn't mean that you'd have to comply with a high-risk requirement.
Who decides it?
It's a self-assessment, so the whole logic of the text remains with a self-assessment. So you will look yourself, am I finding myself in one of the domains in Annex 3? Yes, I do. If I don't even have to bother. But if I do find myself there, so let's say I'm developing an AI algorithm for human resources management purposes, then if I answered myself yes to that question, then I ask myself the question, is my algorithm likely to pose a significant risk? And then there will be a definition of what that significant risk is. If the answer is yes, then I will have to comply. If my answer is no, then I will notify the regulator and say, I am in the categories of risk, but I do not consider myself to be a significant risk.
Is it self-regulation under another name?
It is a way of self-regulating, if you want. It's a self-assessment, but again, also for the rest of the text, we maintain the logic of self-assessment. We do not go with the architecture of third-party conformity assessment.
Axel, and then Kim, obviously.
But to support this idea, yes, because of practical reasons, we are lagging of experts. So if we would go to another kind of a third party or whatever it is assessment, then it takes time. And this, if you don't have the experts,
I get the rationale, the Stillman argument.
So that's why this is the best approach.
I'm just asking. Kim, you hate it, right?
Yes, absolutely hate it. But, you know, so you win some, you lose some. No, but because I think that the annex was actually very clear. The annex says if the intended purpose of an AI system is to make sure that an energy power plant is safe, that is high risk. And then now we're going to ask, but do you pose significant risk within the intended purpose of keeping an energy power plant safe? For me, that absolutely makes no sense. But according to my fellow negotiators, it is the best and most logical way ever. And I have not been able to convince them. As you can hear, they have not been able to convince me that there's another way. But I think it makes the text actually more vague. Because I think Annex 3 is very clear, because it's not just a domain, it's the intended purpose in a domain. And I think that is very clear. And also the definition of significant risk, you heard, it's on the agenda.
It's going to be decided.
So far, a significant risk was a risk that was significant. I hope that's going to change now. But I think we also have to be a bit more clear on that.
Stay tuned for more. I see that Brando has joined us, Brando Benifei, the co-rapporteur from S&D. How's it going? Are you in Italy?
No, I'm in my office in Brussels. But
Okay. Okay. No, because,
I couldn't
yesterday
manage
it was
with-
national holiday in Italy, so I was supposing you were celebrating as my mum was.
Yeah, no, I took an early flight. Unfortunately, I had some meetings before, so I
Oh,
couldn't.
wow. That's very
Can
unfortunate.
you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay. So
We were talking about
yeah.
today's meetings, today's round of negotiations. Are you optimistic? Are you going to?
Yeah, but I
clinch it?
followed the whole discussion. I know
Oh, you
what
did?
was
Okay.
said.
So what do you want to say
I
about?
followed with my earphones while I was walking.
Okay.
So I'm optimistic, yes, because I think that as Dragos has said, we are building. We did a lot of work to do it, a lot of meetings, a lot of side discussions also with the groups. We built an architecture that makes our fellow negotiators equally happy and unhappy. There are different points you heard from our colleagues on the different views. I also would have done something differently, obviously, but I had to find a balance together with my colleague Dragos to present a proposal that could stand, that could have a large support. And we will work on the details, which are important details that we need to agree on today. And I think we will deliver. And that's also, to be honest, what now also we get from our constituents, that we need to deliver on AI regulation. And so I hope also that the Council is ready to have very tight negotiations. It seems to be that it's the case that this presidency, but also the next one that will take place from July, the Spanish one, is ready to do a lot of work together with us, so that we can deliver in before the end of the term.
Okay. I'd like to, I mean, all of you did sign the letter, so I want to know a bit more about the letter you sent, in which essentially you announced you were about to regulate foundation models, but you also called for some degree of transatlantic cooperation on this topic. It was last week, I think. I don't know who's supposed to answer, because all of you signed, but maybe Dragos, I say you are nodding a lot, so by the nod rule. My question was, did you get any answer?
Not yet.
Is a conference with the White House and the Commission on AI going to happen anytime soon?
Well, I hope it will. And we haven't yet received an answer, but I do think that everyone is understanding the importance of global convergence. I heard a bit of the debate earlier about how geopolitical, in fact, AI is becoming. And I agree with that, in fact, and how important it is that we find this alignment, we find this convergence on a global level. And that's indeed the plea that we're making together as a team, that it is time to think at a global level on how we deal with governance of AI, even if, and that we have to admit, there will be different legislative realities in the different like-minded partners out there. But again, the fact that we do have to have a conversation about it, even beyond the TTC, beyond the transatlantic dialogue that we already have, is something that I think we all share. And the letter came, in a way, as a reaction to that other letter.
Yeah, the Fisher Life Institute,
exactly,
yeah, of course.
Where I saw a reaction which, in fact, prompted our conversation among our group to actually reply. There was a reaction in the social media saying, listen, business leaders, academia, the most important AI experts in the world are saying something in this letter. Where are the policymakers in this debate? And that's when we thought it is important to actually speak out as policymakers, because many people don't know, in fact, that we were already, as the letter came out, we were, in fact, ourselves seeking our teeth
and the semaphore.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why we thought it is important that we signal, in fact, what we're doing, that fact that we share some of those concerns, and that we are taking responsibility to deal with those concerns, and then also making that call for a global conversation about it.
I'd love for you to segue, but be very synthetic and very pithy, please, into explaining us what your regulation of general purpose AI would look like, and also the difference between general purpose AI and foundation models, because that really confuses me.
Well, we will have a rule that will apply to all general purpose AI, big or small, foundational or non-foundational. And a foundational model, again, for the purpose of convergence and understanding out there, we're using, and hopefully, we'll see today, but we will be using the Stanford model of the
Stanford will be stoked.
And what we're saying is, first of all general purpose AI has responsibilities for the value chain. So for companies that will be using a general purpose model to do something else with it that might become high risk.
Right.
And then for them to comply, they will need things from the general purpose creator in order to be able to explain, to be transparent, to go through the compliance requirements. So that's one set of obligations.
Right.
Then we say, for foundational models and also for generative AI,
right.
for example, ChatGPT,
right.
there is a specific body of rules that we believe are important to apply to these models.
Which are?
That are specific, well...
I mean, vaguely.
A bit.
High level.
It's both ex ante, so upon entry on the market, and it has to do, again, with how you have a responsibility for the data that you use to train the algorithms, for the transparency, for putting forth technical documentation, for being transparent by going on the European database registry. So things that you'll have to do ex ante, but also things that you'll have to do during the life cycle of your model related to the other actors in the value chain. And then for the generative AI,
copyright.
We also have something on copyrighted material, and we think that there needs to be a transparency, a documentation and transparency from the creators of these models, so that afterwards, those that might feel that their rights that are protected under the law are breached, then they can seek their redress.
Axel, I saw you, sorry, I was thinking that you negotiated some major files, digital files in the past. How much of this is likely to survive impact with the Council and the Commission?
Yes, this is something, so I can't predict the future, but I would say we can convince that we need an approach like this, because we are seeing, and the ChatGPT situation is now everywhere, and also the journalists are asking for it all the time. So there is a kind of an interest in it, and therefore I would say it has a kind of a good opportunity now in coming also forward with the Council on this idea. So I can't see really a reason why not.
Kim, what's your thoughts on general purpose AI? Is this something you feel strongly about?
Well, yeah, for us, we always wanted it included. I have to really congratulate some of my co-negotiators who came from exclusion of general purpose AI to realizing it is actually, quite important that we put some rules on it. So I'm very happy about that. And also very happy that ChatGPT came out so that we actually now see what the impact is, and that, no one could say, no, that shouldn't be part of the law, because it's the only question we're getting asked right now is, how are you regulating
Guilty as
ChatGPT?
charged.
So that is very good, and I think it only makes a lot of sense. Indeed, these models, they're not only just ChatGPT, but they will be built into other models. And I think it's very important that indeed we have transparency where the data comes from. Also because it creates a lot of insecurity about these systems. Look what happened in Italy. It's like, oh, maybe it was these models were trained on illegally obtained data or data that breached privacy. So at least having clarity on that is very good. And I think also it is, to have trust in these kind of models, you have to make sure that indeed during the use of them, the people that are putting them into systems, can be secured about that. Because you have to imagine, now ChatGPT is just to create sonnets about how difficult the AI negotiations are. True story. But it can also be used as a first person you speak to when there's a waiting on the phone, waiting time at the doctor, or these image recognition systems are being used actually to check whether you have whether something on your skin could be potentially be skin cancer, or it could be used to detect whether your face is the same as your passport, in these kind of security systems. So I think it's very important that we have this security and transparency, which also means, that they are still responsible to some extent, that their systems are well throughout the whole life cycle.
Good. Brando, I'm going to pick on you just because you are one of the co-rapporteurs, so you must have an opinion. Is creating this new kind of category of foundational models risky in a way, because you are going to regulate something that is very technique specific? So if a new ChatGPT trained in different ways, without using the current technique for foundational models, if a new ChatGPT comes across, how are you going to deal with that? Isn't this essentially pigeonhole you in a way?
Well, I understand your objection, but as we worked on the on this way of finding an agreeable mean to regulate foundation models and applications like generative AI, we had to find agreement, as colleague Van Sparentak mentioned, between the different political groups, where we had also big differences during the negotiation on how much we should regulate on general purpose AI. So we are having a solution now that essentially avoids the problem of being strictly and only correlated to an intended purpose. In this way, we find a technical way to apply some of the requirements to the foundation models, and colleague Tudorache has mentioned already the general idea. I understand the risk of a possible evolution, unforeseen ways, but to be honest, I think that the approach we have taken of identifying some of the general purpose AI that will be regulated this way, I think it's flexible enough, because it's concentrating on aspects that I think can be applied further to other models. And we can also imagine that during the negotiations with the Council, we can also find some more elements of flexibility that could be put in. I understand that the Council, when they concluded their text, they were, I mean, not having the storm of discussions that are happening now due to the ChatGPT explosion, etc. And so I'm convinced that we will work well on this point. Maybe it will be more difficult on other points you mentioned earlier, for like the prohibitions. I'm convinced that with the Council it will be difficult on prohibitions. But on this, I think they will appreciate. I'm sure that we found an advancement compared to what they put in their text. It's an advancement of how to regulate, and I think we can make it flexible enough to adapt to the possible new technological breakthroughs.
So you're kind of happy with it, but hopefully to be improved during trialogues. Okay, I want to switch. I have some questions here, but maybe we should ask the questions. What do you think? I wanted to ask about the AI office, Dragos, because the Commission hates it.
I don't think they hate it.
They don't like it.
They don't like it because I think the Commission saw itself a bit more in the center of some of the further developments in the implementation, and then also looking for the.
And they say it's costly and too complex.
I don't think it's costly,
is it too complex?
If it is, I don't think it's complex either. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
Because the Commission logic was you create 27 different silos. And you
but with the Commission at the center of
with the Commission at the center to come up with comitology. But again, come up with comitology out of what? Out of thin air.
Right.
Just as the Commission was also thinking that they can write themselves common specifications, again, out of where? Out of thin air. I think what we're creating, and that's the core of our proposal on governance, we are creating something that is much closer to stakeholders. And I think that's an important element to make. It's closer to sandboxes and to the reality and the feedback that will come from the sandboxes. It's closer to all those that will be either developing or using or feel the effects of artificial intelligence. And that's also very important. There is an advisory group in the office that's going to bring industry, academia, civil society, trade unions, consumer organizations, all that with the purpose of doing what? Of staying closely in touch with the reality of implementation, with the breakthroughs that you were mentioning earlier, so that in as much of a democratic fashion as possible, you can then put forward proposals for adaptations to the Commission that can afterwards do its comitology, but do it again on the basis of something that is much closer to again, a true reality check than anything else.
Can you live without it if trialogue were to kill it?
No, I could not. I think it would be, and honestly, from talking to everyone possible out there in terms of stakeholders, they all think that there is a value added by having an EU-level part of the governance. Okay,
we are nearing the close, but we can probably ask a question to all of you. So the question from GWVP. What are the current timelines for regulation GPS systems like ChatGPT? Essentially, the question is, this AI Act won't be ready before spring 2025, according to him. It's possibly a bit earlier. But anyway, there will be a lot of months in the middle during which new AI systems such as ChatGPT, GPT-4, GPT-5 will emerge. Is this going to lack any teeth at all? Do you think the AI Act would be able to kind of repair the damage done in the interim? Maybe let's start in a kind of fun way.
So
very quickly.
Of course, with our ponderous proceedings, we are always late. But I think we are already giving now some guidelines how to proceed. And if they are fulfilling these guidelines, then they won't be in trouble. And that's why I think it's a good starting point now in coming forward. Of course, the development will going on, and so then we have to find a way.
Good enough. Kim, what do you think?
Yeah, I think also like we're indeed giving already an idea of what at least they have to do. You know, make sure your data is correct and be transparent and have good logs. I hope they're already doing that. It's also what they're telling us. They tell us they don't even need rules, so because they're already doing everything perfectly. Right. So I really hope that that's true.
I trust it. And
yeah, I always trust big tech companies immediately when they say things like that. But I think you know, if they're smart, they start working on making sure everything is correctly done.
Zagos.
Well, I'm a judge by profession, and I can tell you that when I was a judge, I was applying laws that had stood the test of time for decades. Or in a common law system, you have judicial precedents that are there for sometimes even more than 100 years, and that legal text is still valid to the social realities, even if they have evolved tremendously over that period of time. So I think that the combination of being very careful on how we craft the rules that we're making today, plus the adaptability that is built into the system via the use of comitology for those parts of the system that do need, of course, to stay in sync with the evolution of technology, is a combination that can make this text future-proof, even if it's going to come into effect in 2 years' time.
That was beautifully said. Brando, last words to you. Is this act going to save us from GPT-25?
Well, to be honest, we cannot leave everything to the laws. We need future-proof regulation, human-centric, whatever we want to say about that. But we also need an investment on understanding, on AI literacy. We mentioned that also in the regulation, and we need to invest and be strong as Europe also, as also Axel always say, that we need to be competitive. So I think we try to put all together, and yes, the AI Act can be a strong contribution to that, hopefully.
Well, okay, best of luck for today's negotiations. I think we're all awaiting the egg hatches and something nice comes out of it. We're much wiser now. We learned a lot today. So thank you all, and thank you. I think we're going on a break for 25 minutes. There's a networking break now, and the next session starts at 11:35 a.m.
This is an age of disruption, of profound revolutionary change.
What we're really asking ministers is to empower the ambassadors.
The only thing that you really push forth is the truth.
You don't see many women represented when it comes to the decisions as to how to handle the pandemic.